Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Holy Happy Hour. I am your host, Josh, and this week we have an amazing guest, which is Curtis Martin. He is the one of the co-founders of Focus, which is the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. And if you guys didn't know this about me, I actually converted to Catholicism about 5 years ago. And if you can't tell, I'm 33, so that would mean in college, as a university student, I would not have been Catholic. I had a great college experience, but it's super cool seeing what Focus is doing on campus. And sometimes it's kind of sad to think, like, I didn't get that experience of working with Focus, being in Bible studies, being discipleship, the community that it comes with. I didn't even get to experience Newman Center life or University Parish life as a college student, but I did get the pleasure of joining an awesome staff at the University of Tulsa at St. Philip Neri, the University Parish there, and being able to work side by side with Focus and seeing what they're doing. It's cool being able to live this experience with um, the Focus missionaries. And so, see if you got an example of something like Focus does on a week to week basis. Is the first thing you'll see a Focus missionary and the team as a whole and do it at the exact same time together. They do every single day is a holy hour together. For our missionaries, it's typically around 9 a.m. They meet in the chapel. They pray together. They pray for the students. They pray for the ministry. They pray for the outreach, the students to come. But then they also take that time to make sure they're filling their own cups so that they can overflow and pour into the students. I think a lot of times in our own life, we can want to volunteer at your parish, or you want to jump into serving at the local, like Catholic charities or local, whatever you're passionate about. But sometimes we put that stuff ahead of our own prayer life. Love seeing our Focus missionaries first and foremost, before the day even starts, they're getting straight into their prayer life. They do a lot of team formation and team bonding and building together, which is another thing that is just super impressive to see. A team like this, we have, I always call it four missionaries plus a bonus one. One of our Focus missionaries, the team lead, is married, and she is also a Focus missionary. So we kind of get this buy four get one free special. And but it's cool to see, like, when you have that many Focus missionaries, when you guys can mesh well, utilize each other's strengths, be able to identify who has what personality, what type. It makes it so much easier when they're encountering hundreds and hundreds of students each week, that they're able to then best plug in that student with which missionary they would fit the best with. So it's super cool to see all the formation stuff they do together. And then obviously, as missionaries, you do what you would expect they do. They go onto campus, they talk to a bunch of students. One of my favorite things they do is tabling. They set up tables, and we'll put, like, our missionaries love to do like a dry erase board, and we'll say, like coming up, like they might do something like, what is the number one most underrated Thanksgiving dish? Something like that, just to get everyone like, oh, it's this or that, it's stuffing, it's cranberry sauce, it's whatever it is. It sparks the conversation. They're like, oh, sweet, that is good. Oh man, my mom makes the best. But the conversation gets started, and then from there, they're able to say, by the way, what's your name? And they introduce themselves, and they start the phase of Focus that's called the win phase. So the Focus has this amazing, I always call it Focus's model, which is really Jesus's model, but it's this win, build, send. At my parish, it's be his, be built, be sent. And so when they're in this win phase, they're out there doing stuff like that, trying to win them over to the faith. And then when they have them when they have them won over, they then invite them into the build phase, which is this discipleship. They invite them into Bible study to start really building that foundation of understanding what God is calling us to be as missionary disciples. And then they're sent when they feel ready, when the Focus missionary feels like they're ready, they are sent onto campus to then help as well. Currently, right now, we have anywhere from 120, 130 students that attend Sunday Mass at our little university. And if you're not familiar with the University of Tulsa, it's about 2,600 undergrad. 2,600 undergrad. We have 62 commissioned disciples, meaning 62 people that have said yes, have gone through this build phase, and now are being sent, and they're out on campus evangelizing their peers. And it's super impressive to see what Focus has built over the last few years. I've been here for officially 2 years now, and it's just been super impressive to see that built. And so, after this build phase, they continue to walk with them, but then they're even training them up to be what, like you just mentioned, commissioned disciples. So now they're training them up to lead Bible studies, invite students into Bible studies, and then they even invite them into discipleship and lead them through discipleship so that they can now have that student as a commissioned disciple. So students are now acting as our very own focus missionaries. So having 62 commissioned disciples is like having 62 bonus focus missionaries. It is wild to see what is going on. And again, like I said, we've had 2600, or we have 2,600 in the undergraduate program here at the University of Tulsa, and over 200 of them are actually plugged into or have plugged into a weekly Bible study. I think we did the math on it at one point. It's 15% of the entire student population plugs into Bible study here at the University Parish. It's just wild. It's just wild to see. And with that, you also then start to see things like 15 people in OCIA becoming Catholic. These are college kids becoming Catholic, college kids deciding that the faith is for them, that they want to live as Jesus as the center, no matter what field they're going in, engineer, pre med, no matter what it is, they want to make Jesus the center of their life. There is 15 students that have decided to come into the wholeness of the church, which is the Catholic faith. And it's just super cool to see. And like I said, none of this, I won't say none, but most of this is not possible without focus missionaries. We could only do so much if it was just the tiny staff we have here. At the University of Tulsa, the amount of focus missionaries we have actually outnumbers the amount of full-time staff we have. There's 5 focus missionaries, only 4 full-time staff. So it doubles the size of our staff and really leads to an impactful campus ministry team, which is awesome. It's super cool to have this just motor, this engine that people are out there working and working. And like when you really have great pieces that are in their right spots, this like machine just turns into a well-oiled machine for Jesus, which has been super cool to see. So we're going to go ahead and now and cut it to our interview with Curtis Martin. It was super awesome to hear where Focus started, where it is now, but then what can you share with us, Curtis, about where it's going, like where the future of Focus is going? So I hope you guys enjoyed this interview I did with Curtis Martin. Stay till the end because we're playing a fun game with Curtis Martin. And next week we have Dr. Edward Shree on the podcast. I'm super excited to share this little game. I'm going to see how well does Dr. Edward Shree truly know Curtis Martin. Before you guys cut back, also, I have to say again, please like and subscribe. We would love to hit 2,500 subscribers by the end of the year. And that is a tall task because that is doubling our subscribers. But you can help us by adding one. Hit that subscribe, like button. The alert bell will alert you anytime I post a new video. And other than that, enjoy the interview with Curtis Martin. Hey, what's up, guys? We are here with Curtis Martin. And Curtis, thanks for taking the time to be with us today. How's it going?
Going great, Josh. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, prior to this, and we kind of talked beforehand, I just shared my testimony with Focus, and just to kind of catch you up, is I'm so excited to talk to you about this and kind of hear more of the backstory of it. I actually wasn't Catholic in college, so I actually didn't get this beautiful opportunity to be with Focus missionaries on campus, to be in Bible studies and discipleship and learn everything that you guys have taught your missionaries to do. But I took a job at a campus at a university parish, and so I got here, and they were like, "You got to meet the focus missionaries." I'm like, "What are focus missionaries?" And they have been awesome. It's been an awesome part of my life. But yeah, so I thought maybe we'd start there with maybe anyone that isn't familiar. I know that most people are, but anyone that's not familiar with focus, maybe give us a little kind of history, or not history, but like a little what is focus?
Yeah, I mean, Focus is an outreach that is designed to send missionaries out to engage people. We started on college campuses, and so
Hmm.
we were sending missionaries onto college campuses here in the United States, eventually into other
Hmm.
countries as well. And the goal
Yeah.
would be to engage people in the faith, the way it was done in the
Hmm.
Book of Acts. Uh, Go
Yeah.
out and meet people and develop friendships and share what's the most important things in your life, namely Jesus
Hmm.
Christ. And so
Yeah.
it's gone very well. We've been at it for about 27 years, and
Hmm.
we started with 2 part-time missionaries. We've got about 1,000 full-time missionaries now, and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
tens of thousands of college students. And a few years ago, we
Hmm.
started sending missionaries into parishes as well. And so
Yeah.
we're now serving we've got about 225, 230 campuses and about 30 parishes that
Hmm.
we staff. And so it's been very exciting to watch people's lives being transformed. People are waiting for an
Yeah.
opportunity to
Hmm.
learn more about who Jesus Christ is and commit their lives to Him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of sending him into parishes, I was supposed to pass on Branson Schrader said hi.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
very cool.
a great, yeah, parish missionary. Actually, when I texted him, I was like, "Hey, Curtis Martin's gonna be on the show." He's like, "I'm with his son right now." And I was
There
like,
you
"Oh,
go.
cool! Like
There you
that's
go.
awesome." But yeah, that's so great. That's awesome. And so, kind of backtracking to like when you guys first started, you said you had a couple part time people. What was that like? What was that process like? Of like you guys, was it you and another person? Was it something you guys sat down and were like, "I have this idea." Like that
Yeah.
parishes
So
or that
I
universities would have missionaries?
right.
Mhm,
We were making it up as we were going along in the sense as Catholics. I was
mhm,
away from the Catholic Church when I was in college,
mhm,
and I actually met what they call now Cru. They used to call Campus Crusade for Christ, but I met students
mhm,
involved with Cru at LSU, and they really
mhm,
helped me to put first things first. I was at a point in my life where I was like, what I'm doing isn't working. I don't know how I'm supposed
mhm,
to live, and I did believe that Jesus was God, but I'd never really figured out how to follow him. And
mhm,
so I was talking to a buddy who was involved with Crew, and I said, I'm trying to get my life straight now so I could start to follow Christ. And he gave me some great advice. He said, Curtis, you got it backwards. Give your life to Christ and let him help you straighten it out. Christianity is a
mhm.
relationship. And I've been
Yeah,
raised in a Catholic home. I'd never really heard that. I'm not saying that nobody ever
yeah,
told me. I just never heard it. And so that
yeah,
was super critical. And they coached and trained me in how to live and share the Christian faith. Well, this was what
mhm,
I didn't expect was the game changer. As I went
mhm,
home from college during Christmas and
mhm,
summer, the ability to stand back and start sharing my faith with other people that I had grown up with
mhm.
changed my faith. It changed theirs too. I mean, it
Yeah,
was amazing to watch. Their
yeah,
response was super cool. But that was the
mhm,
part that I realized I want to duplicate this. Most Catholics
mhm,
never really share their faith. They never take a plant the flag and lead a Bible
yeah,
study or whatever it might be, an apologetics
mhm,
group. They never do that. They go to them maybe, but they don't lead them.
mhm,
And so Focus
yeah,
existed to create a space where you could do that because it's been our experience that that's where things really change. Yes, it changes dramatically when you
yeah,
give your life to Christ. I was living for
mhm,
myself. I was pursuing other goods. And all of a sudden, I realized that
mhm,
Jesus was the greatest good, and I wanted to pursue him with all of my energies, make him the Lord of my
mhm,
life. Okay, that's a game changer. But when I
yeah,
can help other people start to make those decisions, it goes to a whole different level. Almost like,
mhm,
I fell in love with my wife. Being in love with my wife, game changer. We got married, started
mhm,
having kids, game changer again. Being a dad,
yeah.
a whole different reality. And so, Focus
Oh, yeah.
exists to create space for people to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And was it your intention, like, because of your experience, like in college and kind of falling away? Because I know when I first got here, the University Parish, they're like, you should go over there and consider this job, development director, doing fundraising. And I was like, all right. I mean, I own my own business. I don't need to worry about like this. If it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well. I'll be fine financially.
Right.
Um, but then I took it and it was like, this is amazing. This is awesome. I actually ended up selling my business to do it full time. And a lot of that was in part to a focus missionary. When I very first got started, the very first day on the job, I showed up and the priest was like, hey, this is Reese, who was the team lead at the time. He's going
Yeah.
to take you out for coffee, walk you around campus, and tell you about college ministry. And it was super cool. He just talked about how it really is like a battleground. Like this is we are in a spiritual warfare here, and he starts sharing stuff like 70% of students will fall away from the faith in college. A lot of them won't
Yeah.
ever come back, and that's we're here. That's why we're here. And I was just so on fire, and like it made fundraising for this so easy. And I was so grateful for that. Was that kind of your thought of like we got to go into college campuses, we got to focus here because of that?
Yeah, I would say two things. I mean, first of all, the Catholic Church is near, sometimes right on college campuses all over the country, all around the
Hmm.
world.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
students don't go to the Catholic Church anymore. Whereas the evangelicals had missionaries who were going to the students. And I was like, well,
mm-hmm,
there's a hole in the Catholic world. We should put missionaries to go out and meet the
mm-hmm,
people and then draw them back to the church. And so
yeah,
that piece was there because of my own story. That's where I came back to Christ. But also,
yeah,
if you're looking strategically and saying we're supposed to fulfill the Great Commission, Jesus Christ, last thing he ever says on earth before on Ascension Thursday, all
mm-hmm,
authority in heaven and earth have been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations.
mm-hmm,
And
yeah,
so if that's the mission of the church, and you had to go everywhere, and then you look at
mm-hmm,
society and say, well, what needs to be fixed?
mm-hmm,
Everything: the family,
yeah,
drugs, pornography. poverty. I mean, everything is broken. If you had to fix
Yeah.
everything, where would you go? Well, you'd go to
Mhm.
college campuses because you could raise up coworkers. You go to
Yeah.
elementary schools. That's great, and you should go. We should go to elementary schools, but second graders take a long time
Mhm.
before they can become a missionary. And we can go to
Yeah.
old folks'
Yeah.
homes. And old folks' homes, we should. That's a great thing. Old folks need Jesus as much as anybody else, but they're not going to become
Mhm.
coworkers. And if they do, they won't become coworkers for very long. They're old.
Yeah.
Colleges, you're getting people right at the pivotal time of their life, at the beginning of their adult life. They can
Mhm.
do anything. And so
Yeah.
go there. It's the most leveraged place. So for those two reasons, that's where I had
Mhm.
been. And there was a Catholic hole, and it's the most
Yeah.
leveraged place in our culture to start. And we want to get everywhere.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that for those reasons, campus was a strategic choice, still is, will be as far as I
Yeah.
can see into the future. I would
Yeah.
say for decades at least. Will it be at
Mhm.
500 years from now? I don't know. It wasn't 500 years ago. There weren't that
Yeah.
many
Mhm.
universities. So
Yeah.
we'll see where
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
goes. But now the parish, then I would argue if you had to take a next step, where would you go? Well,
Mhm.
the funny thing about the Catholic Church is everybody, even if they're not Catholic, live in a parish boundary of a parish
Yeah.
somewhere, except maybe Antarctica.
Yeah.
But there aren't a whole lot of people
Yeah.
living
Yeah.
there. And so
Yeah.
that would be the
Yeah.
next step. We'll go where
Yeah.
everybody is. And that's what
Mhm.
uh, you mentioned earlier, my son Brock, he's leading that
Mhm.
team, the parish team. And so we're excited about
Yeah.
that. It's going really, really well, both on campus,
Yeah.
record breaking experiences as far as fruitfulness. And then it's going really,
Mhm.
really well in parish, maybe even more fruitful in some ways than the campus, because
Yeah.
parishes don't get a haircut every year. Every year on campus, you
Mhm.
lose 25% of your students through graduation.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen
Yeah.
in parish. People stick around.
Yeah. That makes sense. I could see that being a kind of a tough, like, yeah, you're gonna hit a wall, and like coming into the new school year, it's like we're starting over. You gotta like we gotta go recruit for
Yeah, if
Bible
we've got
studies, get
400
people into
students involved in the
discipleship, and
program, to get to
yeah,
400, we got to replace the 100 that graduated every year and then start to
yeah,
add more. And so
yeah,
it's which is awesome. I'm not complaining. It's
yeah,
really
mhm,
wonderful because when they
yeah,
leave, they don't die; they graduate.
yeah,
Well, they're going
yeah,
out
yeah,
into all the parts of the culture, and that's
hmm
super super awesome. That's why campus is so leveraged. They will go into
yeah,
medicine, law, politics, whatever it
hmm
is. Uh, they
yeah,
were going anyway. Now they're going to go with a
yeah.
mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And we at the University of Tulsa is where I'm at. We have students from everywhere, not even just across the nation, but across the world.
Right? Of course.
Athletes coming from Spain and the UK and Germany and stuff like that, which is cool because then they will graduate and sometimes go back. So it's super cool to see them involved here and get either become Catholic or get involved with Bible studies and stuff. Then we're able to send them off. But I noticed that when I first started was okay, I see this dip and why it's so important where we need to get them involved as soon as possible. So we've started like working with our local high school. Like, hey, can we get you guys involved here before the kids are even high school? Let's get them. I was like, we can just get them exposed to Focus.
Yeah.
They're gonna no matter where they go, they can get exposed to Focus at TU Tulsa. But then if they go to University of Maryland or University whatever, they can go anywhere. Their first thought is gonna be like, I'm gonna go see if there's a Catholic organization. I'm gonna go see if there's Focus missionaries.
No,
It's been awesome.
absolutely.
And then I've seen on the back end as well. I think people don't talk about it as much as I don't think it's as bad of a dip if you train them up well enough. But I think people also dip in their faith and fall away a little bit, go leaving college and going into
No,
the
they do.
parishes. And yeah, and this has
They
been
don't have the
awesome. Like,
support group, the support
mhm,
system that they did at the Newman Center or the Catholic Center, and so it feels differently. One of the things we've emphasized a lot the last 2 years, and it's bearing a lot of fruit, is knowing that that's the case. That when they don't have a support system, can we do
mhm,
exactly what I did? Crew taught me during Christmas and
mhm,
during my summer breaks, actually start leading stuff. So what we're
mhm,
doing very intentionally now is sending students home at Christmas break and at summer
mhm,
on mission in their home parishes. And so
yeah,
now, instead of people having a vacation from the Newman Center, no, you're on mission at home. And guess what? Not everybody's going to go back to their hometown when they graduate, but they will go to
yeah,
a hometown. And if
yeah,
you've already got that habit,
mhm,
that I won't say crash. Sometimes it is a crash, but that
yeah.
letdown will be a very different experience because people already have a game plan.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is super cool seeing. I'm super lucky that he being here in Tulsa because we have access to really everything Focus. I even got to meet Cassie, who was one of the Focus missionaries at the hospital for a little bit. So
Cool.
we got literally got to see all of it, which is super cool. But it's been great for us to be able to work together.
Yeah,
Branson and Ignacio here got a great relationship. I'm really close with both of them, so I'm able to kind of be that bridge. And it's like, hey, who do we have that's graduating this year that's staying in town? We need to
yeah,
introduce them to Branson, get them plugged in now. And then we obviously got great relationships with other priests who hopefully, I think we'll see it soon, but they'll start getting focus missionaries as well, hopefully. And as that does, like, I'm just super excited to see what happens. Because another thing you had mentioned is stuff that evangelicals, or like from my world, like I come from a non-denominational background.
yeah.
I was just Protestant before. I was involved in Bible studies and leading Bible studies and doing stuff like that at a bike church, and I think that they do such a good job of
Ah,
getting people to lead those in really getting groups out there, and like you could walk up to their corner where they have all the groups. And it's like if you're a single dad, or if you're a young adult, or if you're struggling with alcohol, or if you're whatever, like they had all groups for
absolutely.
everything. And I was like, man, we gotta, just like you were thinking, like we gotta do this better. And so I've been working with Branson. I was like, hey, I feel really passionate about this. It's like, what can I do to help my parish? So I'm parishioner of Christ the King. I was, what can I do to help promote this? Like I myself went through discipleship and then now lead
Yeah,
my own Bible study. And now I'm
beautiful.
thinking like, okay, who can I walk with and who can I help? Because it's like we just do this one at a time. And that little way of evangelization that, as you guys say, wind builds send. I love it because it can grow fast and it can become a wildfire and it can change a parish.
Yeah, incremental growth does not mean slow. The
Yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
thing, one person's working with five. All right, well, a year later, those five are working with five. That's went from five to 25. A year later, those
yeah,
25 work with five. That's 125. Well,
yeah.
then you get to 625, and you start to say, well, the
Hmm.
first five may not have changed the parish. You get to
Yeah.
625, that's going to change pretty much any
Hmm.
parish. People can say something's
Yeah.
different here. Now all of a sudden you got all these. Well, who's the youth minister? Well, they're involved. They're one of the 625. And who's doing marriage prep?
Hmm.
Well, one of the 625. All of a sudden, everybody's.
Yeah.
We'd like to say we're not. All the activities in a parish, all the programs in a parish are great. They're like appliances in a home. What we'd like to
Hmm.
say is we're not trying to compete with any of those. It's great that there's
Hmm.
marriage prep or OCIA or whatever. We'd like to
Hmm.
think that we're electricity. So we're going to
Yeah.
come in and make those appliances work because you got to plug them
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
all of a sudden, all of the different activities are all being led by people who are living as disciples of Christ rather than just faithful institutional Catholics, which is great.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with faithful institutional Catholics. But
Yeah.
if you're vibrant in your faith, everything will be better.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And we see we have a girl here that does workshops on charisms and stuff. And yeah, we're all given these gifts at baptism. And I
Yeah.
love seeing what Focus is able to do. Like on a college campus, they're able to meet these college kids where they're at, get to know them, and build this relationship in this win phase, and then build them up and invite them into this like discipleship and Bible study,
Right.
and build them up. And all of this happening, they find that they find those strengths that you would be great at this, and get them plugged in with whatever it is. Maybe it's lecturing at mass, or maybe it's leading a Bible study. Whatever it is, there's going to be something
Absolutely.
that's God's calling them to do. And yeah, folks has been awesome. Like just witnessing it and being part of it here. It's super cool to see. We had 3 student-led Bible studies last year, and right now we're not even finished with this semester. We're at 14 student-led Bible studies. It's
Beautiful.
just crazy. 17
No, we're
students
seeing that
in
all over the
OCIA.
country. It's really
Yeah.
extraordinary to watch because we've kind of doubled down on exactly everything you're just talking about. We said, well, what if
Hmm.
we were more intentional about that? And so across the
Hmm.
country, we've been much more intentional about inviting people. And it's the same thing that happened to me. It's the same thing we've seen over and over again. It's not just a numbers game. I always like to say numbers are not important. In fact, they're not even necessarily good. If
Hmm.
you said, well, in Focus we've had growth, okay, that might be good. If I said to you, I went to
Yeah.
the doctor today and he told me I have a growth, that's probably bad. Um, so what are we talking about? And the
Hmm.
quality is really the key here. It's not the quantity. Quantity only
Yeah.
makes sense
Yeah.
and is only something to celebrate if the quality is there. And to be able to sit back and say, when people lead, this is the thing that Crew helped me to understand that I would experientially. Then the spiritual goods are fun. Material goods, I have a phone. If I give it to you, I no longer have a phone.
Hmm.
Physical goods, when they're shared, you lose them. Here's $100. I no longer have $100.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spiritual goods, when they're shared, are actually possessed more powerfully. You can't even talk about
Hmm.
love if you don't love somebody. You can't, if I share the
Hmm.
truth, I don't lose it when I share it. I actually,
Yeah.
a conviction about the truth deepens. And
Hmm.
so we really want to help people to recognize sharing the spiritual goods is life. People come
Yeah.
alive when they start to do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and it's super cool to see them sharing that, but also like encourage the, or showing them how to do that, but as well as first focusing on your own faith life and fill your cup in mass and adoration through the
Yeah,
sacraments so that you can overflow and just pour into others. Yeah, it's been super cool to see. We got to experience when we talk about this a little bit too. We got to experience Seek for the first time this past year. So I'm
very fun.
married and I have two kids and everything, and we thought we'll get the kids watched. I don't know what. Well, making missionary disciples track. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. And then we decided, you know what? No, let's just take them. And we took them. It was a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Is a little crazy, but the kids, the child care ended up being on like one floor down on my hotel I was in. It was ended up being perfect. It was awesome. But
Awesome.
um, what? How long has that been around? And that's kind of the same question for like just focus in general. What made you guys think like we should do this big conference?
Well, as is the case with incremental growth, it doesn't mean that
Hmm.
the things won't grow big. We actually started with
Yeah.
a conference. The very first thing that Focus ever did was a conference that Dr. Ted
Oh,
Sri
okay.
and I led for 20
Hmm.
students, and the
Hmm.
next year it was 50. And now
Hmm.
you were there. It's 25,000. This year
Hmm.
we have one in Cologne, Germany. We have one at the same time in Washington
Hmm.
D.C. and another one in Salt Lake City. So
Yeah.
now it's expanding to multiple locations, and so but it grew incrementally. And so
Yeah.
it became a bigger and bigger deal. I would say maybe 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago,
Mhm.
it went from a weekend to a 5 day because we realized that a 5 day conference is three
Mhm.
times longer than a 3 day conference. It doesn't seem like it, but really the travel days are the
Yeah, yeah.
first and second. So it's you get 3 days of full conference in a 5 day. You only get one in a weekend. So we
Mhm.
expanded. Again, that was partly because our friends in the evangelical groups all said, "Yeah, we do 5 day conferences. We, why go through
Yeah.
all the hassle to get people to travel all that distance for
Mhm.
one full day?" So we're like, "Okay,
Yeah.
that's inconvenient." But we
Mhm.
did it, and it was amazing. Totally worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. If and we'll include links to everything. I'll get those from my missionary friends. We'll include links to Seek in the Focus website and everything below. But if you guys haven't, we'll put the like promo video for Seek 25. It's in Salt Lake City. They should the main one Salt Lake City, and what the other ones you said Washington D.C.
Yeah,
So
Washington.
the
Well,
other one.
Washington D.C. is sold
Okay.
out, but we still have room
Oh,
in Salt
okay.
Lake City,
Yeah,
and
there you
we'd
go.
love to. Yeah, please join us. Salt Lake City is going to be
Yeah.
awesome right at
Yeah.
the beginning of the year, and so it would be really wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So, kind of moving on to the future of folks. I know some of it may be still up in the air, but as far as what you can share, what do you guys see for like the future of focus?
Yeah, we're always praying and seeking God's will on this, trying to discern what He's offering us. Oh,
Hmm.
We're at about 230 campuses here in the United States. There are a little over 1,000 campuses in the United States. None of the
Hmm.
evangelical groups serve all 1,000. They're serving maybe 400, 500. So we think we might
Yeah.
be able to double our size again, and get close
Hmm.
to 500. We might be out of
Yeah.
runway at that point in time. I mean, there's different ways you can serve campuses.
Hmm.
Can we send a missionary who's serving at CU Boulder down into Denver to Metro State
Hmm.
without putting a whole new team at Metro State? We're working on that, but we think we could probably, God willing,
Yeah.
double our size. That's happened about every
Yeah.
5 or 6 years for us. Again, incremental growth.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's campus, but then the parish. There's about 16,000 parishes, and we're serving 30. So
Hmm.
there's plenty of runway there, and that's
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
United States. And so we're discerning, as
Yeah.
you said a little while ago, you don't have to leave the United States to evangelize the world because you've got international students coming to the United States.
Yeah.
They're already coming to us, but we don't think
Yeah.
that we're not necessarily saying we don't want to further expand. We do serve a few
Yeah.
campuses in Western Europe. We do serve a couple campuses in Mexico, and so we're
Yeah.
open to international growth, but kind of discerning that. But right
Hmm.
now, I think probably U.S. campuses and U.S. parishes are where most
Yeah.
of our energy is going to go as we grow.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, first of all, I guess I would say if you're listening from a diocese that you're like, yeah, this is awesome hearing about Focus. I've never heard of Focus before, and you don't have Focus in your area, visit the websites in the descriptions and learn more about it. And then I would definitely recommend going to Seek and seeing what it's all about. like I said, we're blessed to have both, and it's super cool seeing when we went to Seek. Branson was like, "Hey, we're having a little happy hour with everybody that came with Christ the King," and there's some of the priests from Tulsa that'll be there too. And I was like, "Okay, cool." I didn't know any of them came, and then all of a sudden they like one show up, and then another, and then another, and another. I was like, "Are you guys all considering bringing Focus to your parish?" And like, "We would like to." And I was like, "What does that look like timeline wise?" And they're like, "Well, we don't know timeline wise what it would look like, but we're definitely interested." I'm like, "Oh, this could be a game changer for the Diocese of Tulsa," which the Diocese of Tulsa is already on fire.
It's
So I'm super
amazing.
excited for them.
Tulsa's amazing. And I was
Yeah.
just in Oklahoma
Yeah, it's been
City.
great.
I mean, Oklahoma's on fire for the faith, and so the
Yeah.
whole state.
Mhm.
And so, no, we really do believe. I mean, every Catholic has one thing in common: they belong to a parish.
Mhm.
Beyond that, we don't listen to the same music, we don't read the same books, we don't vote the same way.
Mhm.
We don't have a lot in common. So, if the parish experience is awesome, then
Mhm.
our experience of Catholicism is going to be awesome. And so we're really
Yeah.
excited about it. And that's where, I mentioned Brock, who's leading this effort, Brock Martin, who's my eldest son also. Um,
Yeah.
and he's leading, and we're asking the question, okay, so we think we could grow at 20, maybe even 25%, but what would necessarily have to be true for us to grow at 50%? And again, you
Mhm.
just sit back and say, uh, that increases the incremental growth. You're still growing incrementally,
Mhm.
but could we get to, rather than 75 or 100 parishes in the next 5 years, could we get to 300 or 400? Okay, well, now you're starting to
Yeah.
make have an impact. You're starting to get to most of the dioceses in the country,
Yeah.
and some pretty exciting
Mhm.
stuff starts to take shape.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting to see, and I'm excited to see some of these parishes. I think they're seeing what's happening at our parish, and they're just like, we need whatever you're doing. We need. So yeah, you guys don't know what Focus is. Get on board with what's going on because you could really benefit. Yeah, because I would say we with so many. We actually ran our own retreat at our parish for small group leaders, and they said 5 years ago we this would not have even been a thing. We didn't have enough small group leaders to even do this.
Right?
And now we had, I think there was like 30 or so people at this just from my parish that are all leading small groups, whether it's an apologetics group or a Bible study or just a like different. We had one guy that's helping people with alcoholism and stuff like that. It's just
It's
super
awesome.
cool to see, and it's so cool to see like all these people passionate about apologetics or passionate about helping women with miscarriages or whatever it is, and it's just super cool to find their passion and their niche and then run with it. It's like, yeah, we could use that. We need that. God
Well,
needs that.
yeah, you mentioned earlier, how God has given each of us charisms, and they're meant to support
Hmm.
one another. And so all of a sudden, I have a
Yeah.
heart for something. Well, there are people who have a need, and I have needs, and there are people who have a charism that can respond to that. When people are alive in their faith, when Christ has become the center of your life and my life, and we're praying and we're receiving the sacraments, all of a sudden we're alive. Well, all the charisms start to manifest in a much more powerful way, and our ability to
Hmm.
care for one another, to be better friends to one another, all of that increases. And so the difference between a lively parish and one that's not is the people are alive,
Hmm.
and they're alive in
Yeah.
Christ.
Hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
and you talk to pastors, you talk to priests, they're like, yeah, all things being equal, I'd rather be a pastor of a parish that's alive than one that's dead. And
Yeah.
so, what are the steps? And you mentioned earlier, win, build, send.
Hmm.
Relatively,
Yep.
this is not complicated. It is difficult because it
Yeah. Hmm.
requires effort and changing of habits, but it's not complicated.
Hmm.
Anybody can do this,
Yeah.
and so we're really
Yeah.
excited about it. And the parishes are taking off. We've already got a program called the St. Timothy's Fellows, which are priests who
Hmm.
would like us to come to their parishes. We don't have the missionaries yet, but they said we don't have to
Hmm.
wait till you send missionaries. And so we're working with priests, leading studies with priests. It actually
Oh
started in
yeah.
Tulsa with Monsignor Muggenberg,
Yeah.
uh, and now Bishop Muggenberg. But he was the
Yeah.
first priest to say, "I don't want you just to do this for my people. I want you to teach me how to do this. I know theology, but I
Hmm.
don't know discipleship." And
Yeah.
so now we're working with 100 priests uh,
Hmm.
to work in this way. And no, while anybody can be a disciple maker, priests are the best at it because they're priests.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. We're all called to. They're definitely called to lead the charge, and that's super
Absolutely.
cool to see. And what'd you say that group was called?
The St. Timothy's Fellows.
St. Timothy's Fellows.
So
That's
yeah, so St. Timothy's Fellows, and we're it's just small. We're just getting started. As we look at what that could be, in what
hmm
leadership we need, what's the business plan. we just were
Mhm.
responding to people saying, "Well, what do I do now? I can't have missionaries this
Mhm.
coming year in my parish. Maybe not in the year after that, depending on how many you hire. Um, what do I
Yeah.
do in the meantime?" Well, Father,
Yeah.
you don't have to wait.
Mhm.
And so we're kind of backing our way into this outreach, and we just held an event, a 2-day seminar right before the National Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis, so they could all go to the Eucharistic
Mhm.
Congress.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it was that those 2 days with the priest, super fun.
Mhm.
Those guys are all speaking the same
Oh,
language. They're on fire. They're
yeah.
sharing stories about other people coming alive in their faith in their parish.
Yeah.
Really good stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Super cool. Well, we'll wrap it up then. I know you got a short time, but we're gonna. I thought we'd finish with a little game. I got actually Dr. Edward Shree on the podcast next week, and so I was
Great.
like, oh, we should test him. We should test him how well he knows you with three random questions, and we'll
There we
ask,
go.
and then you just answer, and then we'll ask Dr. Edward Shree how he thinks you answered.
Oh, there we
Then we'll see
go.
how well you think he would do. Okay, so the first question would be just random. This is like if they were gonna make a movie of your life, which actor would you pick to play you?
Oh, George Clooney.
George Clooney. Okay, that's a good easy pick right there. All right. Well, we're gonna see if Dr. Edward Tree would answer that for you. So, okay, next question. We got three of them. So the second one is if God spoke to us and said, "Hey guys, have your best and last meal tonight because I'm bringing everyone to heaven tomorrow." What would be your last meal?
Filet and lobster.
Oh, okay, nice.
Steak
That's
and
a good one.
lobster.
Okay, and then last one is he wants us to stay. No, he's not gonna end the world tomorrow, but he wants us to stay. But he's gonna give us all a superpower. What superpower would you want, or what superheroes powers would you take?
Oh, I take the Saints.
Saints.
Holiness.
Okay. Okay. Holiness. Nice. Now, what if it had to be a superficial, like an actual superhero, like a Marvel or a DC
Uh,
like superhero?
I probably want to fly.
Fly. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So we're gonna test him and see how well he knows you. So we'll give you a shout out.
Well,
We'll
I'm glad I
tell
went
him you said
first.
hi.
So
Yeah, absolutely. So I just was like, we need to think of a fun game we could play with them. That'd be awesome.
I
So,
love it. I
well,
love it.
awesome. Well, we're super excited. I'm hoping one day we'll be able to bring this podcast to Seek. I would love to do.
That'd be
I went
great,
there
Josh.
last year. I went there last year, and I was like, I remember going and seeing Pints of Aquinas live, and him and Father Mike Schmidt. It was just awesome. And I didn't start the podcast. This podcast actually started about 6 7 months ago, and I was like, oh man, like when I started, or if I started, like I want to do this one day. So
Well, it's a fun
one day.
place to be because there's so many other great Catholics, articulate Catholics have been gathered already,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah.
it's a
Mhm.
very fun time to be there. There's a lot of energy, as you know
Yep.
you've been, and it
Yeah.
is a challenge. I brought kids every year for
Yeah.
27 years. I guess the very first one I did without kids, just myself. Left Mike Lamb with the 5 kids back home,
Mhm.
but we've been bringing kids, and it is challenging. But man, oh man, as they get older, it's just fun to watch
Mhm.
them get
Yeah.
engaged and start to be impacted by
Yeah.
the various speakers and prayer
Yeah.
opportunities. So
Yeah.
join us if you
Yeah. And then
can.
yeah, absolutely. And then one of my favorite parts getting to talk to all the different like religious organizations that are there.
Yeah.
Just love it. It's so fun. The one thing I regret is I had my 4-year-old daughter there, and I was like, oh man, I wish I would have taken her to go talk to some of the sisters and stuff. So I'm like, okay, next time I'm gonna take her there. It's gonna be awesome. So,
No, we
well,
have
awesome.
this
Well,
whole
Curtis.
section, as you know, called Mission Way, and the
Yeah.
religious communities are there. I don't know
Yeah.
any other time, maybe World Youth Day, where you see that kind of collection of different religious men
Yeah.
and women. It's super cool.
It was it was wild and super cool seeing all the other like Catholic businesses and stuff. I talked to as
Yeah,
many as I could. I actually have their cards still hanging up of like ways I can use those Catholic businesses and support them with
yeah.
my fundraising efforts and stuff. And so it's just a great
No, we
time.
do
So
need to band together and support one
yeah,
another. So that's really cool. You're doing that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for being on. We look forward to it. We'll tell Dr. Edward Tree next week. He said hi, and we'll hopefully see you guys at Seek.
Great being with you, Josh.
Thanks.